Thrill and Doobie here. What's the play for today? Well, today I'm playing around with a gel plate and a stencil. Now, these guys are smaller than the art journal page that I'm working on because that page is like 9 by 12 and, well, these aren't 9 by 12s. So how on earth could these fill that? Quite easily. You're going to see how I do that, how I build up the layers, how adding one color after another builds that up. And by the end of the page, I had a problem. The best kind of problem to have, the kind of problem I love to have. So when you're gel printing with stencils, it doesn't matter whether you put the paint on first or the stencil on first. I'm going to show you both ways because they both do a great job. This time you saw me put the paint on first, and then I put the stencil on top. And this is one of the stencils designed by Beth for over at StencilGirl Products. So I just flipped it over, and then I'm going to press it down. Now, I tend to use a lot of paint, so this was super juicy, which means I can get more than one print out of it. So I'm just going to put it to a different spot on the page. And now I'm going to pull the stencil off, and I've got a different look with this. And yep, you bet, I'm going to take that print too and put it somewhere else on the page. And I'll keep doing that as long as there's paint coming off the plate. It's not going to bother me if there's any paint left on the plate because, well, you're going to see what we do next. I'm going to put the stencil on top of it. So the stencil's going on first, and then I'm going to put the paint on top. It really doesn't matter which way you do it. And I really like it when I do things that don't have a wrong way of doing it. That means every way that we do it, that's the right way to do it, especially if we're having fun. So I'm going to repeat the same process, and I'm going to put this down just like I did before. You've got the idea here of how this works, right? And I'm just building stuff up. So it doesn't matter how big a stencil is or your plate, you can cover any size that you want to. So in theory, if you wanted to cover a billboard this way, you absolutely could. Just might take you a little bit longer than doing an art journal page. Now I can leave this as one color, or I can add in more colors. And if you've seen much of my stuff, you know I want to bring a lot more colors into this. So what bold color am I going to bring in? This might surprise you. It's not going to be that bold a color. It's going to be a light blue. And it's going to look very close to the color of that teal or turquoise color. But it's just enough difference that it's going to stand out. Well, and when I say stand out, you'll be able to tell that it's two colors, but it's not like it's going to stand out like I'd used red or something. Now, as I'm doing this, again, you can see that I'm just same technique what I did with the other color, just doing it over and over again with this color. Now, I could keep it just this way and have these two very similar colors making a nice, soft, subtle background together. But I'm not having a soft and subtle kind of mood right now, so I'm going to bring in a darker color. I'm going to really get one that's going to stand out against this. This is sort of a deep turquoise, and no matter how I do it, it's going to be right. Whether I put the stencil on and then the paint, or if I put paint on and then the stencil, because both ways work wonderfully. It's just a matter of which one you prefer or which one feels most comfortable to you. So you can see how this one stands out a whole lot more because it's a much darker color. Now, if you're new to gel printing or you've been making prints that just don't take your breath away yet, one of the things that you might want to think about doing is adding layers, just like what I'm doing here. Adding one layer on top of the other so that the print builds over time. Now, I say that like builds over time. What is this going to take? 6 weeks? No. What is this? It's going to be like, what, a under 10-minute video to build this page. That is my version of time. Can you tell I'm a little impatient? But I am going to do something that you don't see me do very often, and that's cleaning the brayer. Really cleaning it, not just my sort of roll it off on something. Because the next color I'm going to do, I don't want blue in that. So what I'm doing is taking the very exclusive and hard to find tool, the baby wipe, and I'm wiping off the brayer. Of course, something like a damp paper towel could absolutely do the job too. So now it's time to bring a little color pop to this. You didn't think we were going to stay with just blues in this, did you? The next color is going to be some orange. This time I put it on the plate first, and I'm going to put the stencil on top. So that means when I go to flip it over, I'm going to leave the stencil on it. So as I position the stencil ever so precisely, don't I look like I'm doing this with such precision? And I take my print, the very first print that I take, that's going to have a lot more color to it because it's got more paint. But I used a lot of paint, so I can get a second and third print here, and there's still going to be plenty of paint on that plate, but I don't want it on the page. So what am I going to do? I am going to find a blank page in this journal somewhere, and I am going to just stick it right on there, because why waste any paint, right? There's goodness every time. And that's also the start of a future art journal page that I've got going there. But now back to the page we were working on. When I'm gel printing with students live, there are some questions that they always want to know. They want to know, how do I know what to do when? How do I know what color to pick? How do I know what's going to happen with the print? How do I know how to build up those layers? Well, when I started playing around with gel plates years ago, it was very random for me. I didn't know how to do this. But as I made more and more prints, I noticed some trends, some patterns, some things. I became aware of the fundamentals, the foundational principles of how the plate works, why it behaves the way it does, and then I used that to help me figure out the techniques that gave me the results that I loved. So once you know the fundamentals, you can make amazing prints that you love. And even my non-artsy husband, he made a gel print that he absolutely loves. We actually have it framed by the front door. We both love that print so much. And that was simply because he knew the fundamentals. Now, how did he figure them out? Because he didn't go through all the trial and error. He didn't do all the hard work of printing. He took a shortcut. He watched the videos in my online workshop called Gel Printing Fundamentals. And if you'd like to take the shortcut too and skip all that trial and error, check out the workshop. Now, when I'm using a stencil like this, I'm getting paint all over this thing. The top, the bottom, it's all around, and I don't want to waste any of that wonderful paint. So what I will do when I'm getting near the end of the play, or if things are really loaded up with paint, is I will just flip the stencil right onto whatever I'm working on, and then push it down, rub it down, that kind of thing, and let the paint transfer onto the page. And that way my stencil, most of the paint is removed, and that keeps them clean enough for me. Now for the plate, I was actually thinking I was going to put it on the page, but I fell in love with that page, and I don't want to waste this paint, so I'm just going to add more to this background of this future art journal page. Now as I looked at the page up here, I realized I wanted more of the stencil cleaning on it, so I'm going to take that last little bit of paint that's on the brayer, put it on the stencil, and flip that over. So yeah, I'm volunteering for a little cleaning here, because if it's like this, I'm absolutely thrilled to clean this way. And as I did it this time, there wasn't as much paint, so lo and behold, not as much came off on the page. Now I could clean things off here on my cleanup page there, but I decided to take some of the paint that was left on the plate, and I'm just going to tuck it into little areas here and there. I don't have to press the entire plate down all the time. I can pick and choose little parts to it. I mean, after all, these plates are flexible, so you can just use the parts that you want to. And of course, then whatever's left, then I'm going to put it onto that future art journal page back there. And now I have a problem. It's actually a really good problem to have and a problem I enjoy having, but it still can be a bit of a problem. The goal for me when I started this video was to make a full art journal page for you. Except making the background brought me so much joy, I don't want to do anything else to it. I want to leave it just the way it is for right now. And if that's what the muse is telling me and I'm getting joy out of looking at it, then this is where I'm going to let the page wait for a little while until the muse says what she wants me to do to it next. Now, if you want to see what happens next to this page, make sure that you're subscribed to my channel. That way you'll know as soon as I have a new video out, because I definitely will be sharing what the muse tells me to do with this next. Well, thanks so much for joining me for today's play. If you've been enjoying this video, I'd so appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs up. And of course, if you'd like to see more of what I'm up to and to check out the workshop Gel Printing Fundamentals, head on over to the blog at acolorfuljourney.com. Thanks so much for letting me be a part of your colorful journey.